Previously on the story, 5 years after their breakup, they meet again at a friend's wedding. A single glance, then both pretend they're strangers. He has a girlfriend now. She says she's about to get married. Old feelings resurface in polite smiles, careless words, and moments that linger a second too long. What was once love is now something far more dangerous, unfinished, unspoken, and unresolved. She thought the past was behind her. She didn't expect it to be waiting for her right there in the room. 5 years after breaking up with Leo Fu, we ran into each other at a friend's wedding. Our eyes met for a split second, then we both looked away in silent agreement, pretending not to know each other at all. After the wedding banquet, my tipsy friend pointed at Leo Fu and murmured under her breath, "Ever since he split up with you, every girlfriend he's dated has looked a little like you. We all knew they were just your substitutes. But this Willow Sang he's with now, she's not only stayed with him the longest, she doesn't look like you at all. He must have finally fallen for someone for real this time." I knew my friend was fishing for me to say whether I regretted it, but I just gave an awkward smile. The truth was, whether Leo Fu had truly fallen for someone or not didn't have anything to do with me anymore. This time I'd come back home to get married. As we walked out of the banquet hall, our friends were hooting and hollering, insisting we keep the party going and drink till we dropped. I was about to say no when someone shoved Leo Fu right next to me. "Leo, Iris traveled all this way to come back," the friend said, wiggling her eyebrows suggestively. "You two go way back, you have to make sure she has a good time tonight, right?" Leo Fu didn't say a word. He just naturally took the suitcase from my hand. I glanced down at my watch. My appointment wasn't for another while anyway. So I nodded and agreed to get in the car. I sat in the front passenger seat while Leo Fu and Willow Sang sat in the back. The car had barely started moving when a high-pitched coquettish voice floated from the back seat. "Leo, you haven't even introduced me to her yet. At first I thought you two didn't know each other. I almost made a fool of myself." She was speaking to Leo Fu, but from the rearview mirror, I could see her eyes were fixed on me, brimming with unbridled provocation and disdain. Leo Fu's gaze lingered on me for a moment. Before he could open his mouth, I took the initiative to explain, "Hello, my name is Iris Shen. Mr. Fu and I were classmates." "Iris' sister?" Willow Sang suddenly giggled, covering her mouth with her hand. "Classmates? Please. Everyone in the circle knows you're Leo's ex-girlfriend. Don't worry though, I'm not that petty. I won't get jealous over something like this." With that, she looped her arm through Leo Fu's and pressed a hard kiss to his cheek as if staking her claim. The entire drive Willow Sang chattered nonstop. Leo Fu, who'd always been the quiet, aloof type, answered every single one of her questions with endless patience. "Are we gonna have to drink more later? I'm the worst at holding my liquor. If I get drunk, Leo, will you take me home?" "I won't let you get drunk. I'll take you home no matter what." I almost cried at the wedding today, it was so touching. I envy the bride so much, marrying for love. When we get married, I want the sky full of roses and colorful balloons. Whatever you want for our wedding venue, it's up to you. I rolled the car window all the way down, letting the wind blow away the sickly sweet, intimate atmosphere inside the car. We finally reached our destination. I just stepped out of the car when I saw Leo Fu scoop Willow Sang up in his arms with practiced ease. When his eyes met mine, his hands froze for a split second. Willow Sang snuggled into his chest, smiling coyly. "I'm not used to wearing high heels. Leo's always worried I'll twist my ankle, so he carries me every time we get out of the car." I nodded and forced a polite smile. "Mr. Fu is so good to you." Once we got to the private room, a friend immediately handed me a glass of wine. "You two are late, 3 drinks as punishment." I just taken the glass when Leo Fu grabbed the other 2 and downed them in one go. "Willow can't hold her liquor. I'll drink hers for her." A few people hooted and cheered, but most of the eyes in the room were fixed on me. I calmly drained my glass and reached for another one, only to have Willow Sang dart over and block my way. "Don't bully my Iris sister like this," she said. "She's single now, isn't she? If she gets drunk, are any of you gonna take her home? Or let her crash at your place?" I shot her a cool glance, pushed her hand aside and picked up the wine glass again. "I don't have a younger sister, but thanks for your concern all the same. For the record though, I'm not single." Willow Sang's face instantly twisted with embarrassment at my retort. The room fell dead silent. All the eyes that had been on me shifted to Leo Fu in unison. Through the dim lighting, I could clearly see his hands tightening around his empty wine glass, like if he squeezed any harder, he'd crush it to pieces. After a few seconds, he raised an eyebrow and spoke up. "Then why isn't your boyfriend here tonight?" "He'll be here at 12. The atmosphere in the private room suddenly turned weird and tense. My friend quickly jumped in to defuse the situation, holding up a deck of cards. We said this party was gonna be drink till we drop. Come on, let's play a game already. Willow Sang tugged at Leo Fu's sleeve, pouting and acting coquettish. But I'm really bad at drinking. Drink till we drop, sounds like you're ganging up on me. Leo Fu patiently stroked her hair, his voice soft and reassuring. Don't be scared. I'll drink all your wine for you. But I don't want you to drink so much, she whined. Her eyes suddenly lit up with a devious idea and she turned to me. Iris sister, I saw you drink so much earlier and you didn't even blush. You must have a really high alcohol tolerance. Could you drink for me instead? Someone frowned and shot Leo Fu a look. Aren't you gonna rein in your little girlfriend? She's going too far. She's the one who calls the shots in our relationship, Leo Fu said flatly. Then he held out a wine glass to me. You do have a good tolerance. How about we split Willow's drinks between the two of us? I stood rooted to the spot, suddenly feeling my fingers go numb and tingly. When Leo Fu and I first got together, he wasn't the big shot Mr. Fu he was now. We'd squeezed into a tiny rented apartment, praying every time it rained that the downpour wouldn't get too heavy, otherwise the roof would start leaking. We'd lived like that for 2 years. Finally, we'd scraped together all our savings and started our own business. At those business dinners, there were always people who'd target me on purpose. Miss Shin, you look like you can hold your liquor. Why don't you finish this glass first? Every single time before I could even reach for the glass, Leo Fu would snatch it away. Iris, since we're the perfect power couple, why don't we split this drink between us, huh? But every time he'd secretly switch my wine with water when I wasn't looking. By the end of the night he'd be dead drunk. Once he'd even ended up in the hospital with a perforated stomach ulcer from drinking too much. Iris, I'll never let you get drunk again, he'd mumbled, lying in the hospital bed. I'll make sure we have a good life. No more drinking for you ever. I shot the Leo Fu standing in front of me now a cool, indifferent glance. Then I took 2 steps back. Mr. Fu, Willow Sang is your girlfriend, not mine. Has it really been so many years and you still can't protect your own girlfriend? The room fell into an awkward silence after my retort. Willow Sang sniffled beside me, her eyes welling up with tears, her face a picture of wounded innocence. Iris sister, I know you're still bitter about Leo dumping you back then. But there's no need to take it out on us like this. Everyone in the room gasped. My friend shot Willow Sang a glare and jumped in to smooth things over. Dumping? Isn't there a popular saying online these days? We all had our own struggles back then, right? I let out a soft laugh. It wasn't anything that dramatic. Just a couple of close friends from when we were young, that's all. Why drag up the past over and over again? If Miss Sang is petty enough to care about that, then maybe she should go home and have it out with Mr. Fu in private. Willow Sang had no idea that I was famous for holding grudges. I'd leave you alone if you left me alone. But if you went out of your way to piss me off, I'd make sure you regretted it too. Even if it was just a war of words. Willow Sang bit her lip and the tears she'd been holding back spilled over. But when she saw Leo Fu standing beside her, watching coldly without saying a word, she stubbornly wiped them away with the back of her hand. Fine, I won't drink. Let's play truth or dare instead. I'll be the referee. Everyone was relieved the drama was finally over, and no one wanted to stir up any more trouble. Willow Sang picked up an empty beer bottle from the table. Whoever the bottle points to has to answer a truth question. He spun the bottle. It twirled around a few times, then finally came to a stop right in front of me. A flicker of triumph and calculation flashed across Willow Sang's eyes. Iris sister, did you really come back home just for the wedding? Or was there something else? I could feel Leo Fu's gaze burning a hole in me, never once wavering. I picked up the wine glass on the table and took a casual sip. I came back to get married. All eyes in the room darted back and forth between Leo Fu and me. Willow Sang nudged Leo Fu's arm, pouting. Oh no. If Iris' sister is getting married, does that mean she can't be my bridesmaid anymore? It's fine, Leo Fu replied distractedly, his eyes still fixed firmly on me. I set down my wine glass, picked up my phone and fired off a quick text. Then I said slowly, deliberately, even if I weren't getting married, I wouldn't be interested in being a bridesmaid. Willow Sang had just made a fool of herself again. She pouted and spun the beer bottle on the table once more. Since we said we're drinking till we drop, whoever this bottle lands on has to finish this whole pitcher of beer. The second Willow Sang pointed at the pitcher, the bottle stopped right between Leo Fu and me. How do we call this? Someone asked. Why don't you two split it? Another suggested with a grin. My friend chuckled, then leaned over and whispered in my ear. Honestly? I still think there's something between you and Leo Fu. Did you really come back for him? I'd been running on fumes all day since I got back and my temples were throbbing. I rubbed them absently. No. I really did come back to get married. My friend clicked her tongue, clearly not buying it. I didn't bother explaining any further. I reached for the wine glass, ready to split the pitcher with Leo Fu, only for Willow Sang to grab my hand again and stop me. Iris sister, it's not that I'm trying to target you, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. It's just that I really hate the thought of my boyfriend sharing a drink with another woman. Let's just spin the bottle again, okay? She emphasized the words my boyfriend, like she was sending me a deliberate warning. It's not a big deal, someone scoffed. It's not like you two are drinking from the same glass, you're pouring it into separate ones. Finally, my friend had had enough of Willow Sang's antics. If you're that worried about your boyfriend, why don't you just tie him up and take him home to keep an eye on him? Willow Sang immediately put on an innocent look, pouting up at Leo Fu with big watery eyes. I just wanted everyone to have fun, that's all. Leo Fu's eyebrows furrowed slightly, but he still gave in to Willow Sang's request. Whatever you want. The beer bottle spun again and this time it stopped squarely in front of me. A bet was a bet. Without a moment's hesitation, I picked up the pitcher and drained every last drop of beer in one go. The game went on. It was almost as if Willow Sang's hand had some kind of magic touch. Every single time she spun that beer bottle, it landed squarely in front of me without fail. Between lack of sleep and drinking far too much, my head was starting to spin and my vision grew blurry. Suddenly, Leo Fu reached out and grabbed my wrist, his fingers cold against my skin. The chill jolted me back to my senses instantly. That's enough games for tonight, he said firmly. Willow Sang shot me a venomous glare, her lips twisting into a petulant pout. But we haven't finished this round yet. Fine then, no more drinking for this one. Iris sister, how about another truth question instead? I pulled my hand free and glanced at my watch. Only 10 minutes left until midnight. Sure. A flash of cunning lit up Willow Sang's eyes. She quickly pulled out her phone, tapped on the screen a few times, then held it up in front of my face. Iris sister, how many men were actually involved in your little sex tape scandal? Staring at the familiar photos on her screen, my entire body went rigid with a violent shudder. That dark, painful chapter of my life came flooding back, as vivid as if it had happened yesterday. It had been right when Leo Fu and I were gearing up to take our company public. At a dinner party full of backstabbers and opportunists, Leo had stepped out to take a phone call and someone had slipped something into my drink. I'd started to feel dizzy and disoriented, my body burning with a heat I couldn't explain. Panicked, I dropped my wine glass, the shards slicing into my palm. The sharp pain had cleared my head just long enough for me to think straight. I'd stumbled out of the banquet hall, desperate to find Leo, but the overwhelming dizziness and nausea had been too much. I'd collapsed in a corner, unable to go any further. With no other choice, I'd used the glass shards to cut my wrists over and over again, trading the searing pain for fleeting moments of clarity, crawling toward the bathroom on my hands and knees. Only when I'd locked myself inside and slid down the door had I finally let my guard down, my heart still pounding in my chest. The next time I'd woken up it was the next morning and I was still in that bathroom stall. I'd rushed back to our apartment, only to find out Leo had spent the entire night searching for me, frantic with worry. But before I could even tell him what had happened, those photos had been leaked online. The scandal had exploded overnight. Leo had pulled me into his arms and held me tight, whispering over and over, "Don't be afraid. No matter what happens, no matter what you've been through, I'll never, ever leave you." I tried to explain that nothing had actually happened, that I'd been drugged, that I'd fought tooth and nail to stay awake and safe. But the photos had been splashed all over the internet, one after another, pinning me to a cross of shame and humiliation. People had come out of the woodwork, spreading lies about how I'd always been promiscuous, how our company's success had only come because I'd slept my way to the top. Men had even claimed to be the ones in the photos, pointing fingers at me and saying I'd seduced them willingly. The scandal had destroyed our company. Our stock prices had plummeted. Investors had fled in droves. Going public had become nothing more than a distant, shattered dream. I'd spent weeks, months trying to prove my innocence, but no one had believed me. No one had cared about the truth. The only person who'd said he'd believe me forever, Leo Fu, had started to grow tired and impatient too, worn down by the endless public backlash and the company teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. Everyone had said our breakup had been caused by that scandal. But Leo and I had both known the truth. We'd simply set each other free. I'd refused to drag him down any further. And he'd refused to let me stay in this country and endure any more of this cruelty. 5 years had passed. I'd finally started to heal, to move on, to leave that nightmare behind me. But now Willow Sang had ripped those scars wide open, shoving them right in front of my face for everyone to see. Liu Fu's face darkened instantly. He reached out, ready to snatch the phone from Willow Sang's hand, but before he could, I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. The sound echoed through the silent room. "I don't know how you got your hands on these fabricated, defamatory photos," I said, my voice cold and steady, "but spreading malicious lies and false information is a criminal offense. It carries a prison sentence of up to 3 years. Once upon a time this scandal had broken me. It had left me depressed, suicidal, convinced I'd never be able to escape the shame. But that was the old me. The new me didn't feel an ounce of pain. The new me didn't waste her breath defending herself against lies that were never true." Willow Sang stared at me in shock, her hand flying up to her stinging cheek. She'd never expected me to hit her. She turned to Liu Fu, her eyes welling up with tears, and clung to his arm. "Leo, it was just a game. Iris' sister, I didn't let her finish." I grabbed my suitcase from the side and headed for the door. "I have somewhere to be. You all can keep playing your little games." But just as I reached the door, Liu Fu stepped in front of me, blocking my way. "Willow was just joking around. You don't have to take it so seriously," he said, his tone surprisingly calm. "You already slapped her back. Call it even." I raised an eyebrow, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I looked at the man standing in front of me, and for the first time in years I saw a stranger. I've always been someone who takes things seriously. I tried to brush past him, but Liu Fu grabbed my wrist again, his grip tight. "Where are you staying tonight?" "I'll drive you." I frowned, yanking my hand free. I opened my mouth to tell him off, but before I could say a word, I was pulled into a warm, familiar embrace. A deep, low voice rumbled in my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. "My fiance is obviously staying with me." The noisy, rowdy private room fell completely silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. My friends stared at me in disbelief, their mouths hanging open. After a long, stunned pause, they started whispering to each other. "Iris really does have a boyfriend? I never heard a word about this. I thought she came back for the wedding, but really she was here to win Leo back, now that he's dating someone who doesn't look like her." Liu Fu's body went stiff as a board. His eyes turned even colder than before, his gaze locked onto the hand that Jude Lu had wrapped around my waist. Willow Sang was the first to recover from the shock. She strutted over, her eyes raking Jude up and down, then let out a high-pitched giggle, covering her mouth with her hand. "Wow, I had no idea Iris' sister actually had a boyfriend. Why didn't you bring him along earlier to introduce him to us? Were you trying to be mysterious? Or is he not actually your boyfriend? Did you hire him as an escort to make Leo jealous?" Jude Lu was objectively stunning, tall, handsome, with piercingly deep eyes that had captivated me from the moment we'd met. I'd never seen a man so beautiful. So I didn't mind one bit that people might mistake him for an escort. I turned to him, a playful smile tugging at my lips. "See? Your looks are too good. You're making people jealous. I told you, standing next to you always makes me look like I'm the one being kept." Jude Lu reached out and gently flicked my nose, his eyes full of affection. "It's an honor to stand next to you. And if you want to be a sugar mama so badly, I'll work even harder to make that dream come true for you, okay?" Our light-hearted, intimate banter made Liu Fu take 2 steps forward, his jaw clenched tightly. He held out his hand to Jude, his voice tight. "I'm Iris's classmate, Liu Fu. And you are." Jude reached out to shake his hand, and I could practically feel the tension crackling in the air, the silent battle of wills between the two men. Jude Lu, Iris's fiancé. When they finally let go, there was a faint red mark on the back of Liu Fu's hand. Jude worked out religiously. He could pick me up with one arm like I weighed nothing. I knew exactly how strong he was. Needless to say, Jude had won that little power struggle. The word fiancé made Liu Fu's face darken even more. He glared at Jude, his voice dripping with barely concealed hostility. "How long have you two been together? Why are you rushing into marriage so quickly?" The room was so tense you could cut it with a knife. Everyone could feel the sparks flying between the two men, and not a single person dared to say a word. Even their breathing seemed to slow down, as if afraid to break the silence. Jude let out a low, amused laugh. "That's hardly any of your business, Mr. Fu. But since you're so curious, I don't mind telling you. I've been with Iris for 722 days. Our wedding is next week. You're more than welcome to come if you have the time." Willow Sang stepped forward, looping her arm through Liu Fu's, and shot me a triumphant look. "Mr. Lu, you're in such a hurry to marry Iris' sister. You must know all about her little past in this country, right? Iris' sister, you mustn't let Mr. Lu down. After all, It's not easy to find a man who doesn't care about your sordid history and still wants to marry you, is it? She was deliberately bringing up the scandal again, rubbing salt in my wounds, clearly not having learned her lesson from that slap. I opened my mouth to retort, but Jude pulled me behind him, shielding me with his body, his expression turning cold and sharp. Iris's past is spotless. Every single person who ever slandered her, who ever spread those lies about her, they will all pay for what they did. And as for you, he said, his eyes locking onto Willow Sang, his voice like ice, if you dare say one more word to hurt her, you'll end up just like them. Willow Sang froze, her face going pale. She stared at Jude in shock, her mouth hanging open. It took her a full minute to recover. When she finally did, she let out a shrill, disbelieving laugh. Iris, sister, did you hire an actor? He's really good at this. He sounds so convincing, it's like he was actually there when all that stuff happened. Or, wait a minute. Is he one of the men from the photos? Her words were pure, unadulterated provocation. Leo Fu finally looked like he'd had enough, but when he saw Jude and me holding hands tightly, he just sighed and patted Willow Sang's shoulder gently. That's enough, Willow. Willow Sang pouted, but she didn't argue. Fine. Sup. I don't want to make Iris' sister angry again. Can we go home now, Leo? I'm starving. I want that little cake from the bakery downstairs. Leo Fu smiled down at her, a soft, indulgent look on his face. He brushed a strand of hair off her forehead. Of course. Anything you want. Before he left, he turned to me, his gaze lingering on my face for a long, silent moment. Then he took Willow Sang's hand and walked out the door without another word. The mood of the party was completely ruined. No one felt like staying anymore, so we all decided to call it a night. When Jude and I got back to our apartment, he pulled me into his arms from behind, holding me tightly against his chest. I could feel his body trembling slightly. Do you still care about him? He asked, his voice soft, tentative, like he was afraid of the answer. I'd met Jude Liu right after I'd moved overseas. Back then I'd been a complete mess, lost, broken, convinced the whole world had abandoned me. Even though Leo and I had parted ways amicably, agreeing that we were setting each other free, I'd still found myself lying awake at night in that foreign country, wondering what would have happened if we'd never started that company. If we'd never tried to make it big. If we'd just stayed in that tiny rented apartment, happy and poor. I'd given Leo almost all of my savings back then, to help him keep the company afloat after I left. By the time I'd gotten on that plane, I'd had barely enough money left to pay 2 months' rent. One night, I'd been evicted from my apartment because I couldn't afford the rent anymore. The cold, sharp wind had cut through my clothes, making me shiver. I'd wandered aimlessly until I'd reached the beach, my mind blank. I hadn't even realized how close I'd gotten to the edge until I'd heard someone yelling behind me, "Wait, don't do it." The next thing I knew, I'd fallen into a warm, strong embrace. Turns out, Jude had seen me standing there staring out at the ocean and had thought I was going to jump. I'd spent ages trying to explain to him that I hadn't been suicidal, that I'd just been lost and tired. Eventually, he'd reluctantly believed me. He'd taken me in, letting me stay in his spare room. He'd even helped me find a job. If that scandal back home had cost me half my life. Then Jude Liu had been the one to give me a second chance. The one who'd saved me. Later, I'd asked him why he'd been so quick to help a complete stranger. He'd smiled at me, that same gentle, affectionate smile he still gave me today, and said, "What if I told you? I fell for you the second I saw you? Would you believe me?" In the days and months that followed, Jude Liu was always by my side. He'd take me everywhere to unwind, quiet beaches, misty mountains, bustling markets, introducing me to all the little joys I'd never allowed myself to experience before. It wasn't until our 3rd anniversary together that he got down on one knee, a bouquet of my favorite flowers in his hand, and looked up at me with those deep, loving eyes. "Iris, will you be my girlfriend?" From the moment I took those flowers from his hand, no, from the moment he'd pulled me into his arms on that beach, I'd stopped being the broken, lost Irishan I used to be. I reached out, looping my arms around his neck, and tiptoed up to press a soft kiss to his lips. "Jude Liu, you're the only one I've ever cared about. I love you." The next morning, I woke up to find Jude sitting in front of the computer, his face clouded with a dark, simmering anger. In all the time we'd been together, it was the first time I'd ever seen him radiate such raw fury. He was staring intently at the screen, so focused that he didn't even notice me walking up behind him. I wrapped my arms around his waist, resting my head gently on his shoulder. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" At the sound of my voice, the tension in his body slowly melted away. He turned to me, his expression softening. "Nothing," he said, reaching for the mouse, ready to close the tab. But I'd already caught a glimpse of the headline on the screen. "About to get married, But my fiance's ex-girlfriend is trying to steal him away. Should I keep fighting for him? Beneath that infuriating headline was a photo taken last night, the exact moment Leo Fu had grabbed my wrist. The angle was deliberately deceptive. Leo was barely visible in the frame while I was front and center, making it look like I'd been throwing myself at him. Jude saw my eyes linger on the screen. He stood up, pulling me into his arms, his voice warm and reassuring. Don't be scared. I'll take care of this. I'll make it all go away. I knew he was worried that this would drag me back into the same nightmare I'd barely escaped, worried that the rumors and the hate would break me all over again. Once upon a time that scandal had destroyed me. It had torn my life and my career apart, leaving me shattered beyond repair. Back then I'd crumbled under the pressure. But now this felt like nothing more than a childish prank. I smiled up at him, pressing a quick kiss to his lips. With you by my side I'm never scared. But you know me, I've never been one to run away from a fight. If Willow Sang wants to play games, I'll play along. And I'll make sure I win. I didn't even need to check the article's author to know who'd written it. It was so obviously Willow's doing. I just never thought that after all these years, the man Leo Fu had chosen to be with would be such a petty, immature child. I patted Jude's hand, silently telling him I was okay, then sat down in front of the computer and scrolled through the comments. Virtually every single one was a vicious attack against me. She's already broken up with him. Why can't she just leave him alone? What a shameless woman. A homewrecker through and through. A good ex-girlfriend should act like she's dead. Why is she suddenly crawling out of the woodwork to ruin their relationship? She's a disgrace to all women. Wait a minute, does anyone else think she looks familiar? Isn't she that woman from the sex tape scandal a few years back? The one who slept her way to the top to get business deals. There were also plenty of comments comforting Willow. Don't worry about her, honey. Just ignore this trash. If I were you, I'd dump your boyfriend and let these two scumbags rot together. They probably deserve each other anyway, hope they get hit by a car tomorrow. Willow had even left a comment of her own, playing the victim to perfection. My boyfriend is so good to me. He doesn't even pay attention to his ex. It's her who keeps clinging to him and refusing to let go. Reading these blatant lies, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Without hesitation, I typed a comment of my own and hit send. This photo doesn't do me any justice. Next time you take pictures to smear my name, at least pick a better angle. The second my comment appeared, it sparked an absolute firestorm. How dare she be so arrogant? She's actually here to provoke us. She's got some nerve being a homewrecker and acting this cocky. Clearly, she was raised without any manners or morals. I did some digging and yes, she is the woman from that sex tape scandal. Rumor has it she used to seduce married men to get contracts for her company. Jude looked at me, his eyes filled with worry. Iris, go rest. I'll handle all of this. You don't need to deal with these people. I had no doubt that he could fix this. He was more than capable of making the whole thing disappear without a trace. But this time I didn't want to run away. Some battles are meant to be fought alone. I smiled at him, squeezing his hand. Trust me. Then I picked up my phone and called my friend from the wedding. Can you send me all the surveillance footage from the private room last night? All of it. My friend sounded confused. She clearly hadn't seen the article yet. What's going on? Is everything okay? I just need it, I said. She didn't ask any more questions. Within minutes of hanging up, the video files were in my inbox. I blurred out my friends' faces to protect their privacy, then uploaded the entire unedited footage to social media with a single caption. Willow Sang, your photo angles are really terrible. Look how much better I look when the camera actually tells the truth, don't you think? Thanks to the firestorm Willow had started with her post, my video went viral in minutes, rocketing straight to the top of the trending charts. The same people who'd been hurling insults at me just moments ago were now leaving comments in unison, their tone completely reversed. Wait a minute, this is the real story. She doesn't look like she's trying to steal anyone's boyfriend at all. If anything, it's the guy who looks like he's the one clinging to her. I watched this video 3 times and yes, she clearly says she's back in town to get married. She's not here for her ex at all. The guy who shows up later is so hot. Why would she waste her time on her ex when she's got a fiancé like that? I thought her ex was handsome, but next to her fiancé, he looks totally boring. Am I the only one who noticed something else? They bring up the sex tape scandal and this Willow girl is so out of line. It's been years and she's still publicly humiliating her over it. What a total drama queen. Okay, but even if it was years ago, if she really did it, she should just admit it. Come on, tell us the truth. How many guys were actually in those photos? Do you still have the original videos? I'd pay to see them. The comment section was exploding with chaos when my phone rang. Who is Leo Fu? You're the one behind the video, aren't you? He snapped the second I answered, his voice dripping with accusation. He sounded like I'd committed some unspeakable crime. I laughed coldly to myself. Mr. Fu, why don't you go watch Willow Sang's video first? See how she lied about me, how she twisted the truth to make me look like a villain. There was a long, tense silence on the other end of the line. Then he hung up. I'd expected him to call back any minute, ready to yell at me again, ready to defend his precious Willow, to say it was all just a misunderstanding, just a joke. After all, that's exactly what he'd said last night when Willow had pulled out those photos. It was just a game, don't take it so seriously. But what happened next was the last thing I'd ever anticipated. Instead of a phone call, I received a photo. It showed Willow sitting on the ground, sobbing hysterically, while two uniformed police officers stood beside her, their expressions cold and impassive. Moments later, a text message popped up on my screen from Leo Fu. I'm sorry. I'd heard Leo Fu say those two words to me countless times before. I'm sorry I made you drink that. I'm sorry I couldn't give you the life you deserved. I'm sorry we have to leave each other, but we have no choice. Reality is cruel. But this time his apology caught me completely off guard. I've made sure Willow Sang gets what she deserves for what she did to you. And you. The rest of the message was left unfinished. He took so long to type the next part that by the time it finally arrived, the sun had set, and I was already half asleep in Jude's arms. Can you ever come back to me? My body went rigid. I dreamed of hearing those words so many times. In the early days after I'd moved overseas, I'd lain awake at night, imagining what it would be like if Leo called me. If he showed up at my door begging me to come home. If he held me in his arms and told me that everything was okay, that we could start over, that we'd be each other's safe haven forever. But he never did. For 5 long years overseas, all I'd gotten were updates from my friends. Leo has a new girlfriend. She looks just like you, she's your doppelganger. Every time I read those words, a little piece of my heart died. If he'd really loved me, why didn't he come find me? If he'd really loved me, why did he need a substitute? Maybe our breakup had been inevitable all along. It wasn't the scandal that tore us apart. It wasn't the rumors or the pressure or the harsh realities of life. It was that he never truly trusted me. That he never loved me enough to fight for me. Leo had said he didn't care about the photos. That he believed me. But after the scandal broke, he never slept in the same bed as me again. And when I'd broken down in tears, inconsolable, he just stayed long enough to calm me to sleep. Then quietly slipped out of the room and left me alone. I glanced over at Jude, still fast asleep beside me, his face peaceful and relaxed. Then I picked up my phone and typed my reply without a single moment of hesitation. I already have a fiance. I squeezed Jude's hand tightly, took a photo of our intertwined fingers and sent it to Leo Fu. He is the only light in my world. I will never ever betray him. Leo Fu never replied. The next morning, I woke up groggy and disoriented to find that Jude wasn't home. He'd been so busy lately running around nonstop, supposedly taking care of all the last-minute wedding preparations. I'd suggested to him before that we could just skip the big wedding and elope. After all, we were planning to move back overseas soon anyway. But he'd refused, adamant. I still have some things I need to take care of first, he'd said. Besides, your parents would want to see you walk down the aisle in a white wedding dress, marrying the man you love. My parents had passed away when I was 16. That's why Jude had insisted on having our wedding back here in the city where I'd grown up. He'd said it was so my parents could watch over me so they could finally rest easy knowing I was happy and loved. But I had no idea that the things he needed to take care of were far more important than any wedding plans. That afternoon, a bombshell news story exploded across every social media platform in the country. Resolution of the so-called sex tape scandal from several years ago. Those responsible for intentional drugging, malicious defamation, and slander have been arrested and charged. It turned out that Jude hadn't been busy with wedding preparations these past few days at all. He'd been fighting for me. Fighting to uncover the truth about what had really happened that night 5 years ago. It had all been a carefully orchestrated scheme by our company's competitors. They'd drugged me, taken those photos out of context, and leaked them to the press to destroy our business and ruin my reputation. Staring at the screen, watching those people confess their crimes in court, tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I'd always thought that with time I'd healed from the pain of that scandal. That I'd moved on. But now I realized the scars had never really faded. They'd just been buried, waiting for the truth to set me free. It was only now, with the case finally solved, that the thorn in my heart was finally pulled out. When Jude walked through the door that evening, my eyes were still red and swollen from crying. The second I saw him, I ran straight into his arms, clinging to him like he was my lifeline. Why are you so good to me? I sobbed, my voice muffled against his chest. Why are you so perfect? So good that I never wanted to leave his side. He kissed away the tears from the corners of my eyes, over and over again. I only wish I could be better to you. Jude Lu had just managed to soothe my emotions when Leo Fu's call came through. His voice was choked with emotion. Iris, I always believed you. I was just so swamped back then. I cut him off without hesitation. We both had our own struggles back then. I don't blame you. I never did blame Leo Fu. I just didn't love him anymore. With that, I hung up the phone cleanly and without hesitation. Jude Lu watched me, his eyes narrowed slightly. I pinched his nose lightly, grinning. What? Are you jealous? He didn't say a word. Whoa, you are jealous, aren't you? Laughing, I grabbed my phone and snapped a flurry of photos of him. I'm definitely putting these jealous-faced pictures up at the wedding venue. Let everyone get a good look at how cute you are when you're pouting. At the mention of the wedding, a soft, tender light flickered in Jude's eyes. He took my hand, pressing gentle kisses to the back of it again and again. I'm not jealous, he said quietly. I'm just envious. Envious that he got to know you for all those years, that he got to be a part of so much of your past, a past I know nothing about. Jude Lu sounded like a sulking little kid. I mimicked his earlier gesture, reaching up to flick his nose playfully. It's okay, I said, my voice warm with affection. You get to have my future. Every single day of my future. Jude Lu couldn't hold back any longer. He pulled me down onto the bed, his soft, lingering kiss silencing all my words. The air around us instantly filled with a sweet, heady warmth. When I woke up the next day, my waist was sore and aching. Note to self: definitely don't indulge too much. Over the next 2 days, Jude Lu accompanied me to pick up my custom-made wedding dress. When he saw me standing there in the gown, he froze, completely dumbstruck. I walked over to him, winking playfully. What? Speechless at how gorgeous I am. The first time I laid eyes on you, he said, his voice soft and full of love, I imagined what you'd look like in a wedding dress marrying me. Tao. I'm finally getting to marry you. At Jude Lu and my wedding, almost all our friends showed up. Everyone tactfully avoided mentioning Leo Fu's name. My best friend handed me a wedding gift, her eyes shining with happiness. Seeing you this happy is all I ever wanted. To receive the blessings of my friends, that was the greatest gift I could ask for. Hand in hand with Jude Lu, I walked step by step toward the altar. It wasn't just a place for us to exchange vows, it was the starting point of our future together. He got down on one knee in front of me. Iris, will you marry me? Tears glistened in my eyes as I nodded vigorously. From the moment I met Jude Lu, I'd been given a new life. After the wedding, I received a bank transfer notification. The amount was enormous. There was only one message attached to it. Iris, this is what I owe you. It was from Leo Fu. In fact, I'd spotted him in a quiet corner during the wedding. But neither of us had said a word to each other. We had loved each other once, but not as deeply as we'd thought. And so we'd missed our chance. Looking back now, neither of us had done anything wrong. When he'd needed me most, I hadn't been able to help him. I'd even dragged him down into the abyss with me. And when I'd been at my most vulnerable, when I'd needed him by my side, he hadn't stayed. So I didn't blame him. And he didn't owe me anything. But we both knew we would never see each other again for the rest of our lives.